we went away and we all researched it, and we couldn't find anything that really targeted children in Australia talking about biodiversity. Hi, I'm Judy Friedlander. I'm the author of The Bee Squad, Boosting Biodiversity in Your Neighbourhood. It's published by NewSouth and it's out now. The book is really a call out to help biodiversity, and biodiversity can really be helped in the burbs, in the neighbourhood, cities and suburbs and regional towns. We have a crisis with biodiversity. We are losing species. And the good news is that we can help in urban areas, because 86% of us live in urban areas, and a huge percentage of threatened and significant flora and fauna live in urban areas. We can make a big difference. It's targeted at children because my organisation, Planting Seeds, runs the Bee and Bee Highway, which stands for Bed and Breakfast for Birds, Bees and Biodiversity. And we go into schools. We've been into over 220 schools now over the last few years, and we have a fantastic program. And I have learnt, of course, that it's all about learning and actions. And this book is all about learnings and actions, evidence-based, lots of activities that children can engage with to help other species. So the first one is basically, what is biodiversity? It's talking about this really big complex topic and it's breaking it down. It has a lot of First Nations wisdoms in there. There's information on technology and extraordinary programs such as Google Earth, where you can go back in time to explore your neighbourhood. There's a big chapter on a corridor, how to start a corridor in your neighbourhood, a street verge, for example, with a template letter that children can fill in and distribute in local letterboxes. There's a big chapter on what to plant in your neighbourhood. So there's information that relates to every single city in Australia. There is a chapter which I think is really fun, which is discover your favourite pollinator, or be a pollinator for a day. So there's tons of info on bees, beetles, butterflies, bats, birds, etc. And what you can do is the child can they can put on their wings, their pretend wings, and then start exploring their neighbourhood as that particular species. What type of food, what type of flowers am I looking for? What am I looking for protection and habitat? Where's my water? That type of thing. There is a chapter on how to be an ace nature photographer or illustrator, and citizen science and advocacy, and a lot more. One other example would be how to be an advocate. So a lot of children feel really passionately about a certain environmental issue. So there is a great template in there based on persuasive text, which a lot of children learn about in school. And I provide some examples of some letters and some guidelines on how they can write a letter to their newspaper, to their school, to their local member of parliament. So the book is really aimed at 8 to 12-year-olds, but just somebody yesterday said that it probably would be suited to children who are a little bit older. And in fact, some adults have said the same, that they've really learnt a lot. The book covers a whole range of things, recognising that people have different skills and different interests. This is my first book, but I am a writer, and my background actually is in media and journalism. So for many years, I was a newspaper journalist and a feature writer, and I've even produced a documentary for television. I've worked in television. I used to write about a lot of different things, and including celebrities and lifestyle, but that's another topic, but always interested in environment, and became super aware that there were big issues. And so I went back to study how to engage people with these big environmental issues. And years later, I emerged with a PhD in the topic. And the organisation that I founded, Planting Seeds and the B&B Highway, came out of that. And it's all about providing facts, evidence, research, plus actions, learnings and actions, and scalability. So the B Squad is all about all those elements. It's encouraging children to learn really important information and to practice. There's tons of activities in the book and great projects, and it's all about joining forces. So with every chapter that focuses on a different element of helping nature, it caters to different interests and skills. Initially, in building up the organisation Planting Seeds and the B&B Highway, I was doing a lot more hands-on experiences. But now we're really fortunate because we have educators and we have people who are helping to project manage and write grants and do research and write articles and graphic stuff like that, which is freeing me up now to think about the big picture. I have to be aware that biodiversity and environmental issues are really quite complex, and you need to approach it from the top down and also with grassroots. And that's really what the B Squad and what the B&B Highway is about. It's continually reminding people what the issues are, but breaking it down into the practical steps that people can take, that children can take. I wrote an article for the Conversation website, which is an academic website or news website, and it was about how children can support citizen science. And I was approached by the NewSouth publishing team, and they said, "Oh, we've always wanted to do a book about citizen science and children." And I said, "Well, that's great. Have you considered a broader book? Because I don't think there's much out there." And so we went away and we all researched it, and we couldn't find anything that really targeted children in Australia talking about biodiversity and what they could do. A lot of other books talk about climate change, which obviously is important, or the international perspective. So the book became bigger. How did I write it? Well, I'm a bit of a multitasker, and I'm used to it, having been a journalist and also fitting in some study. So I devote a few hours a day and then do other things as well. And fortunately, I love research and I love writing. So for me, I love getting on the phone and calling the experts or doing academic research. There is a lot of research in this book. I'd like to think it's very user-friendly, and a lot's gone into making it very child-friendly. What was the first bookshop that sparked your love of books and bookshops? Wow. Well, I lived in Manhattan when my children were very little. That's another long story. I won't go into why. And there was a Barnes and Nobles there in the 90s, and the top floor was full of newspapers and books. And you could actually go right through the shop, the 5 levels, and take any book you wanted, including these beautiful coffee table books, and sit there in the cafe upstairs for hours. And that's what I did. People used to say when they came to New York, "What have you been doing?" And I'd say, "I've just been sitting in bookshops, reading books and magazines and newspapers." I mean, before that too, there were local bookshops that I loved, but it was also when my kids were really young and they had beautiful children's books as well. And that really sparked my interest in children's books. I had a choice with this book to maybe use AI or just even to help, and I decided not to. And that's because I believe books still have a really important role in bringing forth what's authentic, and I don't think AI is authentic. It needs to be reflective of all the research that is human, that was within me and within other experts that I integrated as well. So the role of books is still to have that spark of authenticity and research and things that are true. I like reading a range of books. I'm reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is a fiction book at the moment, but I also like reading factual books and information books. So I recently found a book about haikus and their history, and that took me back to when I was a little girl and used to write haikus when I was in grade 3, which was another reason why I think I love writing about nature. So there's a whole range of books, and also I love reading newspapers or news online, and still on the weekend I get the hard copies of the newspapers and read them because that's my background. I've always enjoyed Isabel Allende as well, the way that she integrates facts and history and fiction as well. As a child, this is really going to affect the whole way people see me. I did read Enlighten as a child, that sense of adventure. Actually, when I think about it, the famous five, I grew up in a street in a cul-de-sac, and my good friends were Jane and Debbie and Tracy and Mandy. And then with Judy, it really was the sort of famous five, and off we'd go on all these adventures in the bush. And in a way, that was an inspiration about the power of fantasy and fun and adventure. My organisation, Planting Seeds, and the B&B Highway and the Bee Squad, it seems to be gathering momentum, which is wonderful. And more people are engaging with this big topic of how to help nature and species loss and biodiversity loss. And so there are more people coming to our organisation. So I mentioned that the B&B Highway goes into schools. So more schools are approaching us, which is lovely because they love the program because it's so practical and informative. And so that's happening. We are quite active now in a number of states. There seems to be something quite big happening in Queensland. We've just started in South Australia. So that's taking time. I'm always conscious. One thing I didn't mention is I also have an academic role as an adjunct fellow with the Institute for Sustainable Futures at University of Technology, Sydney. And so I do academic research as well. I mean, I'm busy, but I love it. I really love it. I feel really fortunate that I can integrate all this background, research and experience. And I'm really passionate about getting the word out. It would be great to maybe write a book targeting adults or even younger children. So that's something that I'm thinking about as well. It's a pleasure. Thank you.